I fell in love with the version of this Asian-inspired bench, and as I was reimagining the project that I wanted to build, the idea of bamboo inlay came to mind. Let me show you how we worked all of that out. I decided to make the bench from 1 3/4-inch maple lumber. And my idea was to try to get a bamboo look to the various spindles. With my lumber selected, I glued up blanks for the back and seat, and then quickly moved on to creating the spindles. There were a lot of them. I got started by ripping them to width on my bandsaw and then chopping them to length on the chop saw. To join the legs and stretchers together to create the undercarriage of the bench, I chose domino loose tenons. Dowels or traditional tenons would work just as well, but the ease and accuracy of the domino machine won the argument. As it turned out, it also caused a problem later. Now I was able to mount the legs on my lathe and start turning. I attempted to shape the legs so they looked a bit like a cured bamboo stalk. Maybe if you look at it from a distance and squint, or maybe not. When it came to turning the stretchers, my exuberance for the domino machine came back to haunt me. I needed to turn those sticked up pieces, but had put a mortise in each end, limiting my ability to mount them between drive and live centers. I ended up filling the mortises with dominoes and then pulling them out later. And by the way, they don't like to come back out. Once all the spindles were turned, I made the long stretchers and then assembled the bench after a dry assembly test. Then, on to the engraving. Now we're going to step away from the bread and butter woodworking techniques on this bench to do some carving, and I'm going to use the Shaper Origin to do that. And I decided, for clarity, to move it into the Woodworker's Journal shop. I think the Shaper Origin is kind of a handheld CNC router, or maybe a handheld router with a GPS system. I'm going to use it to carve a bamboo motif into this back panel, and then we're going to fill it with colored epoxy. The Shaper knows where it is by looking at this tape printed with domino patterns. The first thing you do is scan that and save the workspace. Next, we import the bamboo motif into the workspace, then place it where we want it. You might be asking, where did I get that file to load into the machine? Well, that's one of the cool things about Shaper Origin. What we did was we drew our picture, but you could pick it up from clip art or anything like that. Then we sent it via email to Shaper, and Shaper, through their Shaper Assist program, created the file and put it into my Shaper Hub page. And the cool thing is, this machine is connected to Wi-Fi, so I can download it right from the internet. It's fast, easy, and effective. With the file imported into the Shaper, it's time to get busy carving. We're using an engraving bit, and first I set the depth of cut. With that done, I grab a cutting path with the Shaper and get busy. While I am driving the Shaper, its programming is doing the exact placement of the cutter. If I stray too much from the path, the Shaper will abort the cut. It's just that simple. Now for some routing. So that completes the engraving on the left side of the back. I still have the right-hand engraving to do. Now we use two separate files for this process, but in truth, using the machine, I could have just grabbed this file and flipped it 180 degrees. Pretty cool, huh? Now, some more carving. With the engraving done, now we move on to the colored epoxy inlay. First, I need to do a quick hand sanding, clean everything up. Next, I do a wash coat of shellac. We then tint some tabletop epoxy and use a glue syringe to fill the carving while hopefully limiting how much I spill. When it cures, a bit more sanding and then on to final assembly and finish. When the epoxy inlays had cured, I sanded them smooth and got ready for final assembly. Even though there are only 5 spindles to insert for the final assembly, I needed to do a dry test as some of my spindle ends seemed to have added to their diameter, or I may not have turned them properly in the first place. Once the glue had cured, it was time to apply a finish. I used Watco oil, light walnut for the spindles and leg set, still trying to invoke the bamboo, and natural finish for the seat and the back. I hope you enjoyed today's video and maybe even learned a thing or two. I'm Rob Johnstone from Woodworker's Journal. Keep on making sawdust.